Good afternoon. We're running a little late today, but it's all right. We're only 11 minutes behind. It is what it is. I also want to bring up the fact today we are going to talk about two things, maybe three things, depends on how it goes. First day, first thing, we're going to do a part two of Full Moon, the book about Jim Butcher's Dresden Files. We'll be talking about that. We're going to do a momentary recap. Then we're going to talk about the rest of the book. I think is a good book, and we're going to add in what we're going to do to make this RPG friendly as well. I think that's a nice little add-on to these books. Because if you're watching this, that means you're a gamer. If you're a gamer, you want to talk about gaming things. The other aspect I want to bring up is you see the young guy to the old man's right. Yesterday was his birthday. He turned 14 years old. Everybody out there remember when you were 14? I don't, but I'm old. That's okay. So before we get too far into the book, I just want to start us off with something really, really quick. I want to see how red we can make Jack today. All right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
Jack, you don't count. All right, let's see how we do this. We share the screen. All right. All right, we click on that. We do this. We click over here. And now we're in the Matrix. We go over to YouTube. You see all those lovely faces? All those lovely faces want to do something for Jack. And this was on Max Chill Stream. You can find his chill stream every Friday night. And you'll see an assortment of, nerds talking about gaming, their gaming wants, needs, and whatever the hot topic of the moment. So,
a veritable rogues gallery of the internet,
which I'm deeply apologize for. So, with that being said, here we go. This should only take horrifying couple seconds.
Congratulations on 14. That was actually when my life I had started turning for the better because I hated 12 and 13. So you guys ready? Yep. All right. I sing out of tune. You don't want me leading this, but I'm going to try. So here we go. And happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. We're all out of time. Happy birthday to you. Da 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 da.
Now that nonsense is over.
The magical all-in-one.
I gotta say, DM Fritz at the end there. That's so classic Fritz.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't completely turn it off as much as I thought I did. All right. So now that we've done that, happy birthday, Jack. I hope you got everything you wanted and a few things you didn't know you wanted or needed or even thought that you might wanted.
It was, I think there were some surprises there.
That's cool. Now, what do you do? I'm going to start with your birthday because it's been forever since I was 14. That was, let's see, I'm 38. 38 minus old equals less old. Divide a couple of zeros. Less. You know what? I've drank and slept since then, so we won't think about when I was 14. And we're sure as hell won't think about when your dad was 14 because that's divide the beer with the anyways, we don't need to talk about that either. And he was a musician. Oh my God. Anyways. So birthday. So was it the typical cake, ice cream, group of friends? I think I saw a piano. I don't know how to say it.
Several pinatas.
So do you stuff them with candy, toys?
Yeah, candy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, you can see pictures on our Facebook link of at least one of the pinatas. All four of them were made to look exactly like the kids whose birthdays it was, and one kid who was just there because she's the sister of his friend's brother.
That makes sense.
And the only reason we did it is because she took a picture of herself with my mom's phone. She found it and then wanted to make a piñata out of that picture.
Yeah.
everybody should have fun. Even though it's your birthday, you make sure you guys have fun as well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it wasn't just his
Technically,
birthday.
it was all three of us.
Yeah, three boys all have a birthday around the same time, if not the same time, right?
Yeah.
And what 14-year-old don't want to beat themselves? Wait, that came off wrong. Anyways, let's move on. So,
I'm leaving. Goodbye.
don't go, Jack.
He's trapped. There's really nowhere he can go.
Wait, I
He's trapped.
physically am.
He's trapped with the table and chairs, unless he wants to, play Jesus and throw over my table, which wouldn't go over well. Get back here. All right, enough of the embarrassment. Let's rock with this second book, which right off the bat I'm going to say was leaps and bounds better than the first one. The first one I was able to predict what was going to happen, and I couldn't peg it until it was in my face. Who the bad guy was. Because so far they're coming off very much like mysteries, which they should. He's a private investigator, having been one. I know how that works, and not just in the real world, but in literary sense, private investigation stories should be mysteries, hands down. Period. That's the way it should be.
Right. No, I completely agree. If you know who it is by page 2, then why read the book?
Right. This one definitely did not. I didn't expect where they went with it, and with the way things are in the real world right now, the bad guys being the bad guys, it's no different than the real world. So I'm just gonna leave that there.
Gotcha. Now, this book introduced a couple new characters. Hold on, I'm trying to remember who the characters were. I have them written down on my phone, so give me a second, please.
Good. I should have done that, but I didn't.
All right, we have the FBI guys, which were Philip Denton, Deborah Burns, Roger Harrison, and George Wilson. They were the FBI members of the story. We have Harry McFinn, who was the unfortunate millionaire. Not that part was unfortunate, but he was the LeGroux. We have Tara West, who was the mystery woman that was the love interest of McFinn. We have the Alphas.
Probably one of the coolest characters in the story, I think.
I disagree.
Well, just
which one? Tara?
Tara. She's interesting.
I think it's interesting because every time you hear a werewolf story, you hear man turns into wolf. You barely ever hear about wolf turns into, well, in this case, woman. If
that is in fact the case, they hinted at it or said, wonderingly if that's the case, but I don't know that we were supposed to take that as 100% gospel.
Pretty sure they did.
But even if so, that's cool too.
I mean,
nobody ever
go for it.
No, nobody ever really does that, so that was interesting. But the way he wrote about her, you could clearly tell that she was a new favorite character of his for the book, at least.
Right. I do hope that they bring her back.
Well, you've been through 15, 16 books, and they haven't yet. So chances are they probably won't, unless they, do in an upcoming book. But from what I've understood so far, it probably hasn't happened.
She's mentioned a few times, but
okay.
Then we have the Alphas, which, amazing enough, was not a band from the 80s or 70s. No, that's not the Alphas. I don't know if that's disco enough to be from the 60s. I don't know, but the Alphas were a bunch of high school age kids who had one pony trick, and that was to turn into wolves of dire, Timberwolf size. I mean, the way it read.
I didn't quite get how they became that. From the usual ways, it's you get bit and don't die, and you get the curse.
Right. Well, we talked about last time we did this the different ways, the different forms of the werewolf, other than the Hollywood one is the LeGroux, which is you get bit or you get cursed and you become a great big
Right. And I don't see how a bunch of teenagers. Yeah, I could see them getting bit, but who bit them? Unless it was, the big guy at the end, or some other way. In which case, there's a lot more werewolves roaming around, at least in Chicago, that weren't touched upon.
Well, we did kind of cover the different forms of different ways to do that. There was I think we're getting kind of ahead of ourselves on this topic. With the alphas, they had the ability to turn into werewolves because of magic. They knew one magical word or formula that turned them into wolves, which is kind of cool in its own right. I mean, there weren't the typical Lugaroo. There's the Hexen Beast, which the Hexen Beast were what the FBI agents were because they had the magical belt that had that turned them into wolves. Then you have the Shapeshifters, which was technically what Tara was, only she was wolf to human, not human to wolf. Then you have the Berserkers, which brings in the next group of people, the Street Wolves. The Street Wolves were a biker gang that had the spirit of the wolf in them. They're basically berserkers of ancient Norse times. They were wild. They had a wild spirit in them. Then we have the brand new detective Rudolph, who you'll grow to hate as the storylines keep continuing. Trust me on it. This guy's a piece of work. So
yeah, he wasn't really so much in this book though.
No, don't worry. You will get there. Especially when we do Clear Peril, which will be the next book that we're in. Now, was this off of Baron's audio, or did you guys actually get the books?
He used the same thing I think he used last time. I didn't use Baron's because I abruptly could no longer find it, but someone was, Mark, as a matter of fact, sent me a link to a place, and so I just read that one, and I was able to save it because it was an email, and I'm pretty sure I can get most of the other ones through that, but I am going to try to find Baron's link because he had a lot of other stuff in there, and since I read like crazy, there's a crap ton of stuff I plan on reading, and if I can get it for free, then I'll do that, and it'll help him better decide if I want to buy a book or not.
Okay.
Although sometimes I just know. It's weird. Sometimes I just flat out know I want the book in my collection, even if I don't like the book. But a lot of other times it's like, no, I got to read it first. And we still haven't received our order of the first 7 books, which is going on 2 weeks ago. I ordered them on eBay, the first 7 books, and they still have not yet arrived. So that's kind of bad. Yeah, kind of not cool.
Yeah, I hope you get
to say someone won't be getting positive feedback.
That's too bad. Now, of course, we had Lieutenant Lieutenant Murphy. Sorry, wrong ending. Murphy. We had Harry. We had Gentleman Marcone in it. Now, did you guys actually, I know we had said this last time, but did you guys, after reading the book, did you have a actual favorite character? Did one character stick out more than the others?
Yeah, well, in this book, either Tara or the unfortunate, victim werewolf at the end, he was actually, at least a sympathetic character, I would say. When he died, I got that same feeling I got from watching the original black and white werewolf movie, that you felt sad for the werewolf. He really, did absolutely everything he could to be a good doggy, and it didn't turn out so well for him. So you felt sad when he passed.
He tried to mitigate the damage as much as he could.
Yes,
because it wasn't his fault. It was a curse put upon his family. What about you, Jack?
I wouldn't say I have a specific favorite character or one that specifically stood out to me, but aside from a few, well, there are certain people that I dislike, but not for any For reasons that I don't feel like is, I don't know.
It's all right.
I'll leave it at that.
That's all right.
I have to say though, I am a little disappointed in Harry throughout this book. They went out of their way. Butcher went out of his way, it seemed, to lessen his actual power in this book. He really seemed kind of, for a game's, circumstance, a very low-level wizard. He ran out of either he plays in a system where you have spell points, and he pumped all his magic into certain spells, which left him drained for the rest of the adventure, or he didn't have a lot of spell slots. And since I play old school and games that use spell slots, he only blasted off a couple of spells throughout the whole story, and to me that was kind of depressing. I'm going to be running a magic user in DM Bloodworth's game Tuesday, and he's going to be 6th level. For some reason I thought 7, so I'm like, cool, I get a 4th level spell a day, but then he said 6, so I only get, I think, 2/3 a day, which is still 2 lightning bolts, 3 or 4 first level spells, and 2 or 3 second level spells a day. And I'm like, shit, my character's more powerful than Dresden.
I think Butcher uses spell points because those potions he made, that one potion that was supposed to amplify everything, he used while he was dealing with the bikers. I think he basically pumped in everything into that while dealing with them, and it was just burnt out for the rest of the day.
Right, which led me to thinking of a new potion that I want to see somewhere, which is getting your spell points back. I had it in Palladium. I had those kind of potions all the freaking time. They're basically just healing potions for wizards where you get your, X number of spell points back after you drink the potion. But I almost think that was sort of like what Harry had at one instance in the story, but not quite.
I know.
Or if it was more like a heroism potion or a vitality potion.
I get where you're going with this one. I don't know if there is a potion. I mean, I know there's ways to do. 5e has a way for you if you multi-class wizard with sword. You could use your sword points to feed into your wizards, get wizard spells back. But
even in AD&D, you could rest and restudy your spells for the day, provided it was a long enough time. You had your spell book, and it was uninterrupted. Like you barricade yourself in a room, in a dungeon, or somewhere, and the party just stands guard while the wizard relearns and rememorizes his spells. But other games have different game mechanics. But I was just kind of disappointed that he just seemed to keep running out of spells or magic, and it would have been a little more fun to see him be able to blast off stuff. I know he's trying to, show how resourceful he is, and that he can't, just be the full-blown powerhouse in the story, just slinging spells left and right. Otherwise, he'd be on the FBI watch list more than other people.
Right. I don't know. I mean, as living in a world where we are not able to sling spells, as you put it, I would like, I think. All right, Jack, I didn't know you had that superpower. I like the real. It's weird to say realistic when it comes to magic because it's fantasy, but right. I like the fact that he's not all powerful. There is a cost. Each spell that he cast has a physical cost to his body. You can't drive up the road in your car without burning gas. You can't pedal yourself to school every day without, needing to get drink water or take a rest or whatever, just the recoup. And with the Dresden Files, it brings that aspect of real life into it, and I appreciate that. Because if it was just a wizard that had the Hollywood stick shooter for spells, I think it would be kind of boring to read.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jack?
I've read stories where yes, you're always going to have some sort of limitation. I think Dungeons and Dragons and a lot older novels have brought that into, you know, sort of the communal zeitgeisty, you know, knowledge of modern day magic and, you know, non-existent, you know, situations, etc. But he just seemed very, very low powered, even with all those things considered. You know, it's like he gets like 1 or 2 spells a day, and that's about the limit.
Okay.
And to me, you know, but it's also kind of a different spell system than a lot of other, you know, game mechanic-y systems I'm familiar with. With, you know, even the magic items, you know, have to drain power out of him, as it were, like his blasting rod, things like that. You know, from being a gamer, you know that, you know, they have charges or uses, and, you know, it takes nothing out of you because the guy who did it before pumped their energy into it. So it's, you know, I'm guessing that he gets a little bit more powerful as time goes on, which would make, you know, a lot more sense. You know,
Right.
Otherwise, you know, it's just going to come down to him, you know, eventually basically getting shot, and that's it, the end.
That's fair. What do you think, Jack, about what we're talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it just. I don't know. I feel like saying that. I don't know. I just maybe it's because I just didn't see that. Maybe it's something else, but I really didn't see him being too weak in this, or weaker than the previous one. Maybe, I mean, he said some. I've heard. It just doesn't. It didn't seem like that's what happened. It seemed more like what you said, where, I mean, it just doesn't seem like he. When my dad says that he was disappointed that he didn't use enough spells. I just don't know. I just didn't see.
It seemed like the first book, they really kind of, you know, he had a little bit more magic going on. It just seemed, you know, maybe because it was the first book and they wanted to get you in, you know, and you know, more impressed by his magic.
Right. Well, Mark says, to me, based on reading the third book, it seems to resemble a spell point system. If it is,
That is if I were to equate it to an RPG.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you. I'm not saying I don't think you should, but equating it to any specific RPG doesn't seem right to me because a book isn't written to be. Most books aren't written to feel as if they were actually played as an RPG. But
Sometimes they are because they are. Sometimes they're not.
Yes,
but they're like inspired. I'm pretty sure Butcher played one RPG or another, and I know that he played the Amber Diceless role-playing game and was a big Amber fan. So I can see all of that, you know, in the way Zelazny wrote his magic and things like that. But it would make things a whole lot easier if we actually heard from him, if he ever said that it was based on this game or
well, why would
inspired.
you need to say that it was based on this specific game or this specific
Well, not
experience?
need to, but just happen to have mentioned it. A lot of famous authors and directors and you know, things like that have come out and said that it was inspired by this or what have you. And knowing the kind of audience that he would eventually get, it would be interesting, just to say the least, if he actually said, you know, yeah, it was based on this game or inspired by this game or just, you know, this is how it works, you know, in like an interview to let us know exactly, you know, what we could kind of expect or what are the rules of magic instead of, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there.
You just expect him to just put down a piece of paper and explain everything?
Well, in some of the interviews I've seen of him, he talks about a lot of his process, and that would be the question that I would ask. You know,
I tell you what, anybody who watches this video right now, Mark, if you by chance know him, or if anybody down in later on while watching this video has a way to access Jim Butcher and he's willing to spend his time explaining to his thought processing on something, I would love to have him. I'm sure Shadow and Jack would love to ask him a few questions himself.
Absolutely.
There is an RPG game that evolves in the Dresden Files. It uses the Fate system, which to be honest, I'm not a fan of. I'm not saying it's not a good game. I'm just not a fan of the engine that they're using. But that's just me. We might actually have to break down. I might actually have to try to get my hands on the actual RPG game and figure a way for me, Shadow, and Jack to review it and just give our opinion on it because we're mixing.
It's not a horrible idea.
You think that's a horrible idea?
No, I said it's not a horrible idea.
Okay, I just want to make sure that my partner in crime is like, nope, you're an idiot. Which is fair. I am.
I don't mince words. I would let you know if I thought you were being an idiot. I personally, I don't know that I would shell out for it, but if there's a free PDF or something like that, I'd happily take a look at it. But to be honest, I haven't heard anything good about it to know whether or not I would like or dislike it. But because I don't hear much about it, tends to make me think that it's not the greatest system ever.
Now, this brings up a very interesting point about the council. He cannot. We went over the 7 magical laws that the council has, the White Council for wizards. Yeah. Harry cannot kill a human with magic. They don't care if they take a gun to the bastard, but he cannot use magic to kill humans. Right. Now, the biker gang are humans. Very much, human.
Yeah.
Technically, the Lugaroos a little bit different. I would hope that the council would be a little bit more understanding to, hey, I had a great big Lugaroo in my face. I had 2 choices: be eaten or deal with it. So last time we were actually on here talking about this one, we were talking about him being at the biker shop the first time, not the second time, but the first time when he was sneaking around trying to get information because one of the FBI guys gave him a bogus hint to check out the Street Wolves.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that's where it was. Now, after rereading the book, and you guys actually reading it fully the first time, do we still have the same opinion that we had last time? He should not have been there to begin with. Was this just not lazy writing? I don't ever want to say lazy writing when it comes to Jim Butcher because you could tell there's a lot of thought behind it. But just Harry being an idiot. See, you're the PI. You were a former PI. Would you go?
Yeah,
follow?
Here's the thing. You're supposed to gather information. Let's put it simply as that. But there comes a point between gathering information and breaking and entering. And he was not invited. He was not allowed. And he had, right off the bat, just by getting there to the location, he had ostensibly a large amount of information he should then take to his partner, Murphy, and go from there. And that's what a by the book guy would have done, but Harry's obviously not a by the book guy and wanted more information and more proof, and that's
well, considering Dresden
part of his character,
right? Considering Dresden is based in loosely in a real world. If you're a private detective that happens to practice the wibbly wobbly magic stuff, and you go
and it works,
what?
And it works.
And it works. Yeah, that's the big thing.
There's a difference between practicing it and thinking you're practicing it.
Right. And you
Because
said,
I've seen some
okay.
crazy shit, and 99.999 off to infinity percent of the people who think they can do anything weird can't. Just putting it out there.
Would you have
If you guys
taken the
disagree,
No, I don't disagree with that. I think I have such a weird relationship with the concept of magic. I was raised superstitious. There's certain things I do and I don't do because I am superstitious. And of course, you got to throw in faith into it. You have faith that what you're doing works. It doesn't have to be a religious faith. It just has to be faith that the rituals, everything that you're doing has a purpose and it will work, even though 2 + 2 don't equal 20.
right?
So does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So you're saying you would have went there, got as much information as you could without doing the B&E, not bacon eggs, because bacon eggs are tasty. But
And I don't know if he was unable to get to a phone or if he didn't have one handy.
Well, technology doesn't work with him.
Yeah, you can't use that.
Well, he can. He can at least try. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to drive his car there.
Well, the thing is, anything that was built before like 1950 something tends to work for one reason or other with magic. It's the more simpler the machine, the less it's going to
I think what he's trying to say is the more electronic it is, but because it seems to be things that are electronic. Hinges always work. Doorknobs always work.
He drives a Beetle. Drives a
right, which has a very limited amount of electrical engineering in it. So to me, that makes sense. Okay, he's driving a car with the least amount. No power windows. The most basic elements. Once the engine starts working.
Yeah. Yeah, he's actually still working on the Harry Dresden series. He has another series out there that I haven't got into. Once I started reading Dresden, I just kind of got hooked on this side of his novels. I
noticed that too when I was looking for his books. I almost actually accidentally bought some of his books that weren't Dresden, but I lucked out and that didn't happen.
So yes, he's still working. Actually, there's a new book coming out called The Law that's supposed to come out, on the 5th of this month. It's a shorter novel. It's not one of his longer ones. The other question, how does magic affect or disrupt the world in the age of anything electronic, sort of like what Shadow is saying, anything that is electronic based, it just doesn't work. If you look at magic as a form of physics or a form of, physics works. Let's go with physics. It just works on a different wavelength than normal our technology does, and they don't work well together. It's like putting two magnets together. They just repel each other horribly. So smartphones, in-car of the last 10 years, hospitals, anywhere that, they have to use basically electronics, smart machines, he is just bad for. And it seems to work more with his emotions. The more upset he gets, the wonkier his EMP goes off when it comes to electronics.
So God help him if he's ever on life support.
Oh God, yeah. Okay. So we did the real side of that counter. Now, have you done any DMing yourself there, Jack, or have you just basically been the player?
Yeah, I haven't done any of that. Good player.
He's done things that are similar and not just playing as a kid, but he's got the DM gene in him. I've seen the way he does things and tells stories and does all that.
I'm more interested in his film work, especially in the future. So I'm going to ask a question. If you were putting that scene into film, the bike scene, when he's in the bike shop the first time, how would you work? How would you do that? How would you work it out? Would you have done it like the book says, or would you twist a few things to make it make more sense? or it's magic, it can make less sense, or would you, like I said, would you just keep it the same?
I don't know. I'd probably try to. I mean, I try to change things to make them make more sense, but because I'm not sure if this is what you meant, but I'm trying to think of this in a whole, like a cinematography way. I'm not exactly sure if that's what you meant by that, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
think,
We'll go with that.
Yeah, I'd probably. I know I'd have to reread the scene to know exactly what I would do, but based on my memory, and it has been a while since I've read that scene. Or not read, because I listened to it, technically, because the book still hasn't gotten here yet. But from what I remember hearing, I'd tried to follow it, but I would also try to make it. I don't know. I don't say I would specifically follow what it said for the sake of following what it said, but I would definitely use it to try to find out exactly what was meant to happen.
That's fair. I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to ask you questions a little bit more into your wheelhouse, where when I turn the question to your dad, how would you set that room up in an RPG session? He could answer that because that is his wheelhouse, per se.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of talked about filming. I told you my idea about what was it, the Dune? Not Dune, the Scientist. How I'd film, how I have that one in my room. I would actually have them run everything they do in the book first, just to physically to see how it would look.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would, what the hell do I know? But I'm, just physically to see how it works out, then to see where the changes would need to be taken.
Yeah, I think the main problem with that is just, and not even with time constraints, but typically you do want to do practice runs, but typically you don't want to do something, you want to have everything planned out by the time you start filming.
Not sound boards, visual boards, I think they're called.
Storyboards.
Storyboards. I'm sorry. I do my research before I bring these things up. Because you're into film, I've been reading more and more about film than I have in the past. So I'm trying to keep up with where you're at, which you will forever be 5 steps ahead of me because I really don't have the head for it. But that works. So I'm going to turn the question to your dad. Actually, hold on. There's something in chat I want to say. The text issue doesn't always stick. It's its own rules in the book. That's true. Just a minor. That's fair. That's like everything else, everybody's going to have their own picadillos when it comes to stories. The Hobbit drives me nuts because if I have to listen to Sam sing about the damn elephants one more time, I'm going to strangle somebody. I vaguely remember the sci-fi, the Dresden Files. I like the lead actor, but execution of the story. Yeah, I blame Nicolas Cage. That's all I'm going to say is I blame Nicolas Cage because Nicolas Cage was the executive producer of the Dresden Files TV series.
Oh, okay, I was going to say I don't remember being in it. I think that particular actor. Good for him that he got the job, but I think he gets a lot of jobs, maybe a few too many, where he's not really appropriate for the character. But if Butcher said, "Okay, that guy's fine," then that's fine.
Well,
I do remember watching like the first 2 episodes, and I'm like, "Oh, it's that guy again," because he's been in a crap ton of stuff, and it's like. He gets a lot of work, but he's almost never the star, and that was kind of, I guess, why, because he's better as a side actor, a side character, than the lead.
He was in the Arrow TV series, Stephen Amell there. He was, and I thought he did really well with that, but I have to agree. I'm not saying he's a horrible actor, but there are certain people out there that can take the lead role and run with it, and there's other people that can't. There's nothing against them. It's just how it works out. Now, When I say I blame Nicolas Cage, he was the executive producer of that show. And a couple years later, after the show fell, he came out with a Disney movie called The Sorcerer's Apprentice, where he more or less played Dresden. And you can see it in the movie. So I thought, I'm thinking to myself, maybe he wanted to play Dresden and just people keep telling him no. I don't know. But yeah, I blame him for the failure of the TV show because it could have been something amazing. It really could have. And it still could be if we can get the right people into it and behind it. But
unfortunately, once something fails one time in Hollywood, it takes a long time before anybody's willing to touch it again.
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, that is true. But they keep trying. I mean, sometime this year, there's going to be a reboot of Quantum Leap. I like the old show, not guaranteed to like the new show. So
yep, I like Babylon 5 a lot, and Firefly, but I'm probably not going to touch either of them with a 10-foot pole. Just saying.
Yeah, well, that would be kind of fun to review. Anyways,
Firefly? Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, the little guy doesn't want to watch it.
That's objectively not true. Why did we even stop watching that?
Because you didn't want to watch it because you didn't want it to end.
For some reason, I don't believe you.
Yeah, he literally said something to I'm going to paraphrase, but I told him how good it was and he was loving it. And then when he realized there was only like 12 or 14 episodes and a movie, it's like, oh man, but then it's going to be over. Let's pace it, only watch one episode every year so that, I've always got more to look forward to, just not right away.
12 years later. Geez.
I don't believe you.
Well,
this is kind of what you said.
I don't believe
to be fair, Jack, I kind of understand. You may or may not have said this, but I do understand. There is one episode left of Anthony Bourdain, one of his last TV show that I refuse to watch. Because the moment I watch that, I know it's done. Over. It's over. There'll never be another episode because he did what he did.
He was murdered.
Okay, but either way, the show's not coming back, and it just breaks my heart. So I do understand from a nostalgic point of view.
We had the same thing with Stranger Things.
No, we started watching it because it was bad.
Oh, really? Was it because it was? But maybe not season 3, but season 2.
No, season 3. We stopped watching at season 3.
Well, season 4 made up for it so far. Anyways, back to the topic at hand, because boy, do we love to ping pong off of each other. I think that's what also makes this channel, what we're doing so great is because we do ping pong off of each other. So how would you set that? Man, we might turn into a part 3 of this if part 3. It happens. Gives you time to read Grave Peril when it happens. How would you set that encounter up for an RPG, or would you just slide right past it?
Well, here's the thing. I know a lot of people don't like the word fair in gaming. Encounters and stuff, but you're dealing with a one-on-one situation, that being one player character and one dungeon master. If the player character goes into a no survivable situation like that could have been, he's got to make that out and really kind of hint that that's the situation. You know what I mean? Before or as he's going into, the spider's lair, so to speak, and because otherwise, he ends up either dead or tied up in a chair earlier.
That's fair. The way I ran it was I did run that actually encounter through Pathfinder. I had 5 players. I think 3 of them were cops. 1 was a priest, and 1 wanted to play a wizard. And they're detectives. So they went to the shop to look for a way to enter using what's the term? it's a police term where you think you hear something or you see something and you can enter without a warrant. President, I can't think of what it's term, but yeah, I ran it. They thought they saw a bloody rag on
Just
there.
cause? Probable cause. Probable cause.
So they went in there and the bikers found them. Then there was a small kerfuffle. Then they got out. I mean, it probably could have been ran smoother, but it was my first time trying to do it. But it was 5 against like 10 bikers. So it wasn't going to be a win scenario for the players. It was, oh shit, we need to get out of here the best that we can.
Yeah.
So, and it's okay as a DM to set your players up in a no-win situation, in my opinion. But that's it makes them work harder the next time around. But I could be wrong as a DM. So Dresden gets out of the bike shop, and
real quick.
What?
Yeah, about the filming thing, I kind of collected my thoughts. Yeah, because obviously when you're filming something and making a movie or a show or anything like that, it's very different from a game because you're the individual watching the thing is simply viewing it. They're not interacting with it in any way.
Right.
But the way that you would want to do this, at least my perspective, is you would want to show. You wouldn't want to show immediately. Yes, you want to. It's obvious that there are people in there, but you wouldn't want them to know what or who is in there or how many there are. But to kind of hint towards the fact that he's walking into something that he that he probably can't come out from without obviously some very possible, I don't know,
sticky situations.
Yeah. But you want, not only would I want to change that whole plot armory bit to make sure that isn't there, but you would want to make sure that you can see that there is a threat there and that he is walking into it unprepared, and that he is looking for evidence, have him looking around for a bit, and maybe have him hear that there are people there until he gets attacked.
So would you film it from a POV point of viewer?
Yeah, point of view. Yeah, I don't like doing that. Well, it's not that I don't like doing that. When I do the few times that I have, because I have more professional experience with more traditional stuff. Well, professional experience. I have more quality experience. It's not even quality. It's a low budget school project. Well, I technically have more experience with POV stuff, but
Right.
It's for specific. I mean, if you go to watch some of the stuff that I've done, which don't, by the way, it's all bad. It's either a POV the entire way through, either like a body cam footage, or you're just seeing what this person is because you, the viewer, are that character. Either it's a choose-your-own adventure, or you're just seeing through their eyes. But if you do it traditionally, third person, or just with going around looking at stuff, I don't think you should switch. I mean, you can, and it's worked, but I just don't like switching between the two.
You know what? I get where you're coming from because I've seen some videos where it felt like they just put like a one of those cameras attached to the guy via the chest or the head, and then they did the scene. Then they cut the same scene, but they cut a different camera on where you see the guy without the camera attached. And it just felt weird. It didn't feel organic, not organic, but I get what you're saying. So he gets out of there. He goes back to his office, and guess who's waiting for him? Gentleman Marcone, the main boss of Chicago, the Al Capone of the 20th century. What was it that got Al Capone? Oh, right, taxes. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It was he refused to pay taxes. So the moral of that story is, always pay your taxes on time, or the
Tax
FBI
evasion.
will come get you. What was that?
Nothing. It's not necessarily an inside joke, but it's a kind of a joke, kind of an inside joke, kind of not. That one of my friends is either going to try to overthrow the government or get arrested for tax evasion before that.
I can understand that. That's reasonable. I mean, I think everybody should dream about taking over the world at least once in their life, maybe twice, depends on where things are going. No, I'm not planning on taking over the world there, Pinky, but I have thought about it. So Al Capone, Jesus, Joe McCone is in his office, and he tries to offer our hero a job. How did you take this? Because I had a whiff smell of desperation. It's like, oh my God, the main bad guy's ass is going to be in a sling. He needs as much power as he can get his hands onto because he's pissed off the wrong guy. Did you guys get that feeling?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, and shame on Dresden for not taking advantage of the situation instead of just trying to be the white knight of every situation. That's just not how people really act in the real world. I get it; it's fiction, etc. But he instead of trying to make an enemy based on principle, he should have been able to try to bridge the gap between both worlds of you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. As long as it's not illegal, there could easily be times where they could help each other out without going into anything that for at least Dresden, that wouldn't have been defying his principles and morals. There's going to come a time where the most likely answer to the solution to a problem is to go through Marcone and get some information. Instead of just screw you, you're evil. I detected evil. You're evil. I now must banish you from my office forever. Okay, great. Boys, he said no. Shoot, take him out to my car. Throw him in the trunk. We're going to take him for a ride.
I just
you don't want to say yes?
I want to point this out to the viewers. This coming Saturday, we'll have Bruce's campaign, and the man who just said all this is playing a paladin. I'm not saying Dresden is a paladin, but he definitely has those weird idealisms of a paladin.
Right, but in the real world, and having worked in his same profession, you just don't do that. You don't tell the guy who regularly buries people or fits them for cement shoes to go F themselves. You just don't do that. You renegotiate the contract going, for starters, we can have a gentleman's agreement, nothing on paper. Okay?
Right.
I help you, you help me, 1-for-1 basis, and like for like. If I help you, if I need information, you give me information, then someday I'll give you information. Simple as that. No, nothing on paper, nothing provable in court, and nothing illegal.
That's fair.
Otherwise, he will find himself at some point with a pair of cement shoes and a visit to Davy Jones's locker, courtesy of Marcone. It's just dumb. Just absolutely dumb and unrealistic to think that by the end of book 2,
he hasn't been taken out back and shot. Yeah, no, I understand that. I get what you're saying. What about you, Jack? What was your thoughts on it?
Well, my thoughts on that were not those.
Good for you.
Idealism is a benefit of youth.
Okay.
I almost forgot what I was saying. Yeah. My thoughts on that were. My thoughts were a bit more. I mean, I'm not going to say that I completely agreed with what he did, because no. But not only I believe that there were some certain rumors, or there was something going around in the story that Dresden was actually working with him,
Right.
and he didn't want that to be able to be proven. And if he signed this, it not only is could be proven,
Right.
because it becomes true. It wasn't
Right.
true before, but if he did sign this, not only would it be provable to be true, but it would actually become the truth. Because if he started working for him, that's what everybody's saying was happening. And everyone's saying that you're working for this guy, who you're not, but then he comes and offers you a job. Unless you want those rumors to be able to be proven true, you're not going to... Yeah.
Actually, DM James made an interesting point a couple videos of his ago, where it's easy for a bad guy to say yes, but it is hard for a good man to say no. And I think that's
John?
I think that's a very interesting concept. But no. So he says no, for better or worse. He says no to McCone. And I mean, he did think about it, though. I mean, he did think about it. It's like, I could do the research I want. I don't have to scrape for money for meals. I could live in a better place. He did go through all the pros of it. At the end of the day, he realistically, Shadow, you are right. Realistically, that doesn't end well for anybody. But I'd like to think that when that type of thing comes down the line, I would have the character enough to say no, even if that ends very badly for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's just.
But here, like I said, there's too much gray area in the middle to be taken advantage of by both sides without going full black or full white.
Right. That would also
morally
probably ruin the relationship you have with Lieutenant Murphy straight out the bat.
Well, is that such a bad thing?
I mean, she shot him.
No, not really. Kinda, yeah.
Not yet. Well, not yet. I love how you say not yet. All right. So the main McCone leaves. Dresden goes home. He goes home and talks to Bob for a second, and instead of signing up with a bad guy, he summons a freaking demon.
Right.
For
So that's kind of a little hypocritical, maybe. I don't know.
I think so.
Like a demon's somehow better than a mobster.
Well, to be fair, the demon was trapped in a circle and could not retaliate in the short term.
So instead of helping out a mobster with a little bit of information, he helped a demon partially own his soul.
Right. Well, he got a name. He got part of his name, which names are, even in real life, names are important. They define who we are,
Right, but to think that the demon couldn't figure out his entire name, like we discussed earlier.
Oh yeah.
Through computers and records, etc., or just guess. I mean, once you figure out two of his names, that he's, oh wow, you're named after Harry Houdini and another magician. Let's just run the computer program of every professional stage magician.
Copperfield Blackstone Dresden. Granted, his middle names are kind of unusual, but I get what you're saying. I kind of forgot. On the way, McCone, as McCone was leaving the office, he did mention that the killings are connected to McFinn and his Northwestern Passage project. I forgot about that. So McCone did kind of drop a hint, a crumb, a whatever information.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he summons a demon, as I said, for information, and I wouldn't have done that personally. I mean, summoning demons, even in RPG, I think is a bad idea. I've never been one like, hey, we need information. Does anybody have any demons they can summon? I just think this is a bad idea.
It's potentially the worst idea in all of role playing.
Yeah.
Although, from a film point of view, that could be a very fun film. Very part.
It would be. It would be.
Right, but it just forgive me, but it's kind of retarded.
It is. That's
It
why
is,
that's why I'm saying it'd be fun to film, because you would have. Would you use, if you had the money and the technology? Would you use practical magic? Have somebody in there in a rubber suit, or would you CGI the creature?
I don't know. See, I like practical, and I've done practical for everything, but it's not good practical. Again, everything I've done is taping things. One time I literally took a plush sun, taped it around my friend's head, just actually used tape to put it around his head, and that's what I did.
For a mask.
Not even for a mask. That was my level of practical effects. But if I had money and any sort of skill, I would definitely try to do as much practical as I could. Other effects would definitely have to be CGI.
Yeah, you'd have to go with a mix. You'd have to go with a guy with a guy in a rubber mask with CGI over it.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of.
Well, the
where we're at.
last you said Davy Jones' Locker, and it made me think of the original trio Johnny Depp movies, where they had Davy Jones as a squid lobster looking creature. They had the guy wearing a gray pajama suit with little balls on his face to capture motion and CGI on top of it. I think that's how they do it.
Yeah.
Motion capture, that sort of thing.
I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I mean, I love practical magic. That's why I have such an issue with some of these sci-fi shows, because not every alien out there is bipedal. I want to see something other than something walking straight up front. That's Jim Henson's Dark Crystal, Jim Henson's The Labyrinth, Ninja Turtles. I think
the thing with that though, I don't know if I know I said this on, I think it was one of the chill streams. I don't know if you were there, but they were talking about this specifically, about how aliens wouldn't all be bipedal. And at the time, yes, at the time I was working on some pictures for a project that involved a alien creature that was not bipedal, which was a weird coincidence. But I realized kind of at the moment when I was, because of the design of said alien, that humans, at least most humans, naturally are able to connect, and they're able to connect with things that look like humans or like things they recognize. If an alien looks like something that we either don't recognize or do recognize, but only recognize it as something dumb and just animalistic, or an animal, most humans instinctually won't be able to recognize it as a intelligent sentient creature, because we're so used to seeing things that look like it as either things to run away from or things to hunt.
Right. Well,
we're just able to connect more with humanoid and human-looking creatures because that's what we're used to. We're able to connect more and relate, one of the words that I hate using, with creatures that look like humans in some way.
Right. I
Plus,
think
there's actually a huge chance that any intelligent species that we come across might actually be bipedal, because that's how they.
I think I said this in the same stream. They would need very similar conditions to Earth, the same gravity, and because if they had different gravity, the size of the planet matters.
Yeah.
If its gravitational pull from the moons and the sun and the planet itself were different, they would need to have 4 or 6 or 1 or however many legs in order to balance. Because balancing on 2 legs is difficult. That's why humans, they don't walk for the first few months, and you crawl before you walk, because it's easier to move with 4 legs holding you up than with 2.
Right.
Especially with above your legs, you have something very tall that you need to keep up there, and if you don't control everything perfectly, something will fall over.
And then you smack your head.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it kind of goes with the riddle. What starts on 4 legs, walks on 2 legs, and goes back to 4 legs.
Yeah.
Because it's a baby to a man or a woman to a young person to an old person with a walker or a cane. Because as we get older, we start to lose more and more of the balance that we had when we were younger. But no, I get what you're saying. All right, so he finds out what kind of werewolf that Nick Finn is, which is the traditional Lugaroo. He also finds out the only way to kill said Lugaroo is with a piece of silver that is inherent. So you can't go to your local pawn shop and buy silver whatever and melt it down for bullets. I thought that was interesting. I actually liked that a lot. That didn't cheapen it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he does this other stuff, but I like when when other people take stuff that exists and change it to either just change it enough to make it different but still good, but more likely to change something to make it more realistic, or to make it more complex and better. Because things that, especially the way he takes it here, where it's in kind of our world, but with magic. So you have these myths that are based on real things, but because they are myths, what people think about them are inaccurate.
Right.
I really like
that. Anything to add on to that one there, Shadow?
Well, I think that comes with the territory of writing. If you don't kind of make something your own, then you're going to limit yourself. So, the way he changes things around is okay, but at the same time, it makes it kind of difficult for the reader to sort of follow along in the way of a detective novel. You need to be able to solve the mystery, or you're basically just on a roller coaster ride. Right. If there is no chance, and many mystery writers have done that. The actual, criminal perpetrator of the crime isn't even mentioned until the last 20 pages of the book. So you had absolutely no way of knowing. I think Agatha Christie was famous for doing that. Bringing a character 20 pages before the end of the book, and suddenly, okay, so 20 pages before, now because this new character just suddenly popped up, in the story. You need to have foreshadowing, and you need to give hints so that the players can follow along and kind of figure it out, instead of just having been spoon-fed at the very end of this is it. And now if there are legends or myths that you can use to back up your stuff that are more or less less common explanations, that's cool. Bring in those old weird one time someone said this and that was the actual true method, as opposed to just making something up that there is no literary backing for. But otherwise, I think that if you're going to do a werewolf story, I think any silver melted down into a bullet better damn work.
I get where you're coming from.
Well, I mean, in the story there was silver melted into a bullet that worked, but it was inherited silver.
Right. It was the earrings that Lieutenant Murphy got from her grandma.
Yeah, that makes no logical sense why it has to be inherited.
Magic. Are you the guy who always tells me, when you're doing magic, it doesn't have to make sense, because if it's magic, it's magic, and you can do anything you want.
Right, but
You've said those exact words to
until
me.
this book, there have literally been 50 or more different versions of the werewolf story that literally gets killed by a silver bullet. It's
Isn't-
just silver. As a matter of fact, Stephen King's story, The Silver Bullet,
Bullet, yeah.
it was all about just getting some damn silver, which was hard enough as it is. I've been trying to buy silver for 2 years now. I can't find, the silver that I'm looking for just to buy, in bar, coin, ingot. I don't give a shit. As long as I can just buy some silver,
Why do you want silver?
because it's worth money and it's a way of holding on to money that's not cash. Because legally, you're only allowed to own so much cash in your house or on your person without it being against the law. Those times you see briefcases with hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's a felony right there. You can't do that without special permission. You can only have X number of dollars in your actual home.
That's
So
crazy.
if-
I've heard that too. It's absolutely crazy, but it is what it is.
Well, because they want to control how much money you have and what you can do with it. That's reportable and trackable. And yeah, that's fine, but that's why people are buying silver and gold, so they can take their money out of their damn bank, buy the silver and gold, and then when shit hits the fan, they can buy stuff with silver or gold coins.
But
Right.
silver and gold are only valuable because they're rare. And if we do enter a apocalyptic scenario, no one's gonna care about shiny rock.
No, they're actually still going to care for a while, and then it won't matter because then all they want will be bullets, food, and water.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're getting off topic. I just the inherited thing, fine. Just don't bring any more werewolves back into the story because then you're gonna have to go find some more inherited silver, and that well is dry.
Isn't the whole thing that werewolves exist, but the myths about werewolves are partially true, and the whole silver bullet thing was just people used the silver bullets that they made from inherited silver, and people just thought that it could be any silver, so they started writing stories and tall tales about
It could
any
be.
silver.
It could be, but if you're going to, if you're going to put, a vampire in your story, you better allow for there to be some wooden stakes. You say you're in the desert, there's no stakes around for miles and miles and miles, and you're surrounded by vampires. That's bad dungeon mastering or bad storytelling by basically assassinating your party with a no survivable rate encounter.
Right. No, that's fair. But the whole silver bullet was just for that type of werewolf, and that type of loup-garou is rare. It's not the general. I mean, like we said before, there's all those different types of shifter, loup-garou, hexen beasts, berserkers, and changelings, and whatever. But the silver bullet was mainly for the loup-garou. But yeah, I just like the different twist on it. I mean, I've seen 100 movies where silver bullet it had to be silver for a werewolf. It was kind of nice they put it in. It was kind of nice he put a different twist on it. I enjoyed it. So he gets all this information. Then he gets a knock on his door, and it's Lieutenant Murphy's partner. He gets dragged to a murder site where he sees the remains of Kim Delaney, his protege from earlier in the book, who wants to know all about the different circles, if you remember.
Yeah.
Do you think Murphy's pissed? She accuses him of keeping information from her, which he kind of
did. That's exactly what he did.
Yeah, that's going to get old real fast. That's going to end up being like Moonlighting or Remington Steele, just that constant thing that they got to remind you of every single episode, and that's going to get old after a while.
Constant thing they have to keep reminding him of.
My secret past you can't know about. What I used to do, and
That's not what I asked.
well, no, that's what is going on with Murphy. She's pissed off because of him, not wanting to tell her when she already freaking knows. You know what I mean? Doesn't she by now know magic's a thing? And
to a certain degree,
But wasn't what happened that Kim was her name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That she went to ask him about these different circles. He told him about two of them or something, but the last one, it was too dangerous, and he didn't want her knowing about it.
Yes, yeah, because she was still. I mean, she was still an apprentice, which is like the information like that you don't give to your student. You know, younger students. It's like taking the wheels, not the wheels, yeah, the extra training wheels off a bike too soon, in my opinion.
Yeah. Technically, it's more like someone's using trading wheels, but it's not important. What is important is that this was a bit confusing for me in the book, but I thought that, because I didn't realize that she was his apprentice until later on, but if she was his apprentice, she was already practicing magic then.
Right.
Then why wouldn't she just tell him what it was about? Why she needed the
Right.
circle?
Why she lied and got her killed. She lied and got her killed.
Because he asked, I'm pretty sure he asked, like, why would you need this?
And she said it's just academic. She's just curious. She's not really doing something with it.
But
when in fact she flat out lied.
If she was doing something with it, and if she would have told him, maybe he still would have said no. But then there's a chance that he will say yes.
Well, there's an even greater chance. It's like, take me with you. I want to meet this guy.
I think that's more of the answer. I think he would have assisted to see the situation for himself than just give a young wizard, not a young person.
Right. Not only that. Think of I think it's more plot armor, because if he would have found out that this super rich guy was trying to keep from turning into a werewolf, it'd be like, okay, here's my bill. Your problem's solved.
Yeah.
Every full moon, I am going to be here and make sure nobody gets killed. But here's my bill.
Well, that's how you make.
And he would no longer be poor. He would no longer.
Well,
be
it's
able
not
to
really plot armor. It's kind of the opposite. Not the opposite, but plot armor is like
a 20 or 30 chapter book into a 1 chapter book.
Yeah, it didn't happen, because if it did happen, then the book would have ended right there, and there would you go on to the next.
And Harry Dresden would have been, no longer able to complain about how poor he is all the time when he's a freaking wizard. If you're a poor wizard, you are a poor wizard in more than one respect, because you're not thinking of how to make money. Well, and yeah, sure, you don't be in the white knight. I know, but there are certainly ways you can go and make more money.
I mean,
without using magic.
I don't know if it's mentioned in this book, but it's mentioned at some point that he was actually selling weight loss potions that made you feel fuller. So, because money was, his normal gig was kind of drying out, because there was a rumor that he was working for McCone from the first book. So the cops were just kind of treating him as, as he was. Yeah, so he wasn't getting business from that. So he was trying to make,
Be right back. Go ahead.
Things work.
Okay.
What did he say?
He said mid-show intermission.
In mid-show narration. We could go back.
I think the last stream went to hell. Oh no.
I think me and you could talk about the whole, because I think we are of the same thought processing when it comes to the inheriting silver. I think it's an interesting twist.
Yeah.
I don't want my books or my movies to be straightforward. There has to be just a little bit more to it, for them to be interesting. Are you the same way, or do you like your books to be straightforward?
Yeah, there needs to be something different.
Right.
And of course there is benefits to something simple, but if in this sort of story, it would be weird for it to, not only would it be, I think it's just a good twist, but I think it would actually be kind of weird for it to be, what all the myths and all the TV show Hollywood stuff say, that's exactly how it is.
Well, I don't know what the pawn shops look like in your area, but I can tell you in Chicago, Illinois, if you want to get your hands on silver, it's not that hard.
Yeah, I think it's just something to do with where we live, because we live in a very small town.
I mean, there's jewelry shops out there that sell silver rings, necklaces, chains, and all that. At least here. So but back in the old days, silverware is like when you got married, the wife came with a diary. I think a diary. I think it was called, where she had she brought linen and cloth and silver, but these were like old school aspects. You don't see that stuff much anymore. Or this is my great grandma's silverware that she got as a wedding gift. You know, the things get inherited that way.
Yeah.
You don't see much of that anymore. I don't know why. I know times have changed.
Yeah.
Financially, things are a little bit tougher on people than what they used to be. But there are still certain things you would inherit from your parents, your grandparents, or family members, and some of it might be jewelry and earrings for Lieutenant Murphy. The necklace that Dresden has.
Yeah.
It's silver, and he inherited it from his mom.
Yes.
So I think it's cool that he technically already had the tool to put down the Lugaroo from the beginning.
Yeah.
He already had it.
Yeah, when I got there, I kind of started thinking if that was planned or not. Or if it was just a coincidence, like he was writing it and he realizes, oh, he has this silver thing right here. Or he was planning, mapping it out. He realized that he has it.
Right. I don't know. I mean, like I said, if there was any way to get that man onto our stream, it would be absolutely amazing. He is one of my favorite authors. Modern authors, let's just say. I like some of the older ones too. They're no longer with us, like Mark Twain and other ones. But no, I want my stories to be straightforward, but every once in a while, I like the road to have a little twist. I don't want, and the book present, as your dad was saying, that you knew who the bad guy was within the first couple of chapters. This book you didn't really know because you had the FBI agents, you had McFinn. Yes, I know, Shadow. Hold on, I'll.
Yeah, he reminds everybody of that every single day.
Well, at least now I know how to spell it. As you're saying, you had McFinn, you had Tara West, you had the Alphas, and you had the Street Gang. I mean, there was a lot of people brought into this one where, you didn't know exactly who the bad guy was. Multiple choice of villainy.
Yeah, there were multiple, and there were some people that you think are, but then they turn out not to be, and people that you don't think, and there was a lot. But it's not straightforward. Here's the bad guy. That's who they are.
Right.
Because in the first book, it was kind of a mix of who it is at the beginning. Well, it's only who it is at the beginning, but it's kind of a mix of the actual, because the main villain at the end, Victor. He's mentioned very early on, but not only is he kind of just treated as like just some random guy that he looked for to get money, and that was it.
Yeah.
Or what? And then when you find out he was the bad guy the whole time, it makes sense, but it is an actual mystery. But at the same time, it's both an actual mystery that's set up from the beginning, but also kind of just shows up at the end.
Yeah. The books. I mean, this book that we're talking about now, and the first book are very much. You could tell that the author is still trying to figure out his craft. Not so much his craft, but the direction he wants to tell his stories.
Yeah.
It's like you see that in movies with especially younger directors. You could, if you watch, I don't know, couple of I'm trying to think of somebody famous right now where you can see their earlier movies. Spielberg, George Lucas, using those people for example, you can see where they got started and see where they, what kind of films they do now. Because there for a while, if a Spielberg movie was to enter the theaters, a good chunk of the population's like, it's Spielberg. It's got to be good, right? But you weren't going to get that in the very beginning.
Yeah.
So I think he's still getting his feet underneath him in that balance that we were talking about earlier. Now, we're going to push on a little bit further, but we can circle. There he is. There's your dad. So we got the input from the bathroom, which I don't disagree, but I've got to read his work, so I will. Once I get there, we will have a conversation. We might even review a couple of his books to even this stuff out, or him or her. It's a him, I think you said.
Yeah, Roger Zelazny.
Okay,
and it's not just because I met him and got to talk to him for a good long time, and he was very, not only was he cool to me personally, but his books to this day, there's a reason why a lot of our mutual friends, hold him in such high esteem, as well as the guy we're talking about was a big fan. And you can't be a big fan without being influenced, and I can't think of a better way, to pay homage to someone you like that much other than to emulate him. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery and all that. And for me, it's just, I can see it. It's like when you read the other writers of Conan stories, they loved Conan, they loved Robert E. Howard, thus they wrote Conan stories. You will see, you have to write like Howard in order to write Conan stories.
Right. It's like me going back and let's say I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to write a story about one Victor von Frankenstein. I will have to go back. I should read Dean Koontz' Frankenstein series. Then go back even further and read Mary Shelley's version of it to see where they're going with this one. I completely agree with what you're saying. Let's keep this thing going. So he shows up. She is obviously upset with him for keeping away information. To be fair, I'm going to play devil's advocate just a little bit. The information that he just got, he was not able to tell her yet because he just got it.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a timing error. There was, yes, he should not keep secrets from her, but give the man a moment to explain what he just found out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she needs to.
It's almost like they found out at the same time, and then she got mad at her for not telling her earlier, or him.
Yeah, and she has to know by now that phones aren't a great way to get a hold of him, and he is a freaking wizard, and he does actual magic. Therefore, unless he's gonna train her to be his apprentice and go through all of that, which would be interesting, but it would be a lot of work. She has to deal with hey, sometimes magic shit happens, and who are you gonna call?
That's fair. Granted, I also believe there is one of the maybe not one of the spoken laws, but one of the main principles of the White Council is not to let the vanillas know everything what's going around, because a normal person couldn't understand per se. I mean, the fact that she's willing to hire a wizard out of phone book says a lot about her. But if somebody comes up to you tomorrow and says, magic is real, vampires, werewolves, so forth and so on do exist, would you believe them straight out? Or like, okay, man, whatever you're drinking, smoking, or snorting, put it down. So but I think the real world would not be able to handle the fantasy world if the fantasy world actually was real. We are too, I don't want to say xenophobic, but there's definitely a phobic aspect to it. I don't know what the right word is, though.
Well, xenophobia would be could be an accurate description, because I hate how xenophobia is now used as another word for racism. That makes no sense. Xenophobia is the fear of the unknown, or what you don't understand, which
Right.
pretty much every single human. Well, no, it's the irrational fear
Of
what you
strangers.
don't. Yes, and what you don't understand and what you don't know, which again, pretty much everybody has. Whether or not you call it irrational or not, I don't know.
You know,
But-
I kind of
In this
giggle
case,
whenever, every time I've gone to like church or somebody talks about angels, and I'm in the back of my head, it's like, wait, and you didn't shit your pants? How did your mind deal with this without there being a physical reaction? But that's just me. This is why most people are. Kai's here. Hey, Kai.
I don't see it.
It's on. I have it on.
Yeah, no, we have the chat up on a second device.
It might be just slow.
Yeah.
Kai, if you want to, let us know, and we'd love to have you on the show, especially when we're talking about Dresden. I'm sure you're busy today, but let us know. We'd definitely love to have you on here. I shouldn't speak for the rest of us, but that's my opinion.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I want the
I do know Jade is interested in joining us maybe when we talk about the next book, Grave Peril, because that's for him. Is when his Dresden story really kicks off for him. All right. So he gets arrested by Lieutenant Murphy. He gets beat up by Lieutenant Murphy. And I was talking to a couple of my friends about this one, and one of my friends is in judo. And I'm like, how could a 5'0" beat the shit out of somebody that's over 6 foot? Shouldn't there be a height issue, weight issue? And it's like, Lieutenant Murphy does judo. I'm like, yes. And a bunch of other martial arts. I'm like, yeah. They teach you how to deal with bigger people, especially in judo.
right. Do they teach you how to take a punch to the face?
They
Where
do
it actually
boxing. Trust me, that was the first lesson I was taught, how to take a punch to the face in boxing. I don't know about judo.
No,
I don't know judo.
There's just certain things that just don't wash. You know, if he's 6 foot, that means he's looking at about $180, maybe more. You know, okay, maybe he rolled up really crappy wizard stats, and his strength is only 10, and his con and dex aren't so high. But physics are physics, and it just he let it happen because he's not going to punch a girl. If a girl throws a punch, you grab the arm and you don't let it happen again. But unless she hits him in the nuts or a couple other really vital spots and drops him instantly, I'm not buying it.
There was this guy, I did Taekwondo for a while, and there's this instructor, old guy, like old guy. But he was like a black belt in like a couple different things, and I was sparring with him, and he found out I did boxing, so he said, go full tilt. He kicked my ass. I am not ashamed to say it. This
Did you land any punches to the face?
Oh, yeah, he kicked my ass. Did I punch him?
No.
I wasn't able to. I couldn't connect at all. I guess that's where training and experience, counts. And even though I'm a boxer, was a boxer, he still's got years upon experience over than I do, especially at that point in time. But I don't know. I kind of need Jay to explain the judo aspect a little bit better because I know I won't be able to. But she kicks his ass. He gets arrested. He goes down to the pokey. Then Tara somehow sneaks into. This is the part I had issues with. No, she didn't sneak. She somehow sneaked around all the cops. And I got him out of the car. I don't know about you, but the few times I've been arrested, I'm almost pretty sure once they get you into the car, the doors are locked.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how was she able? And I know this is breaking, imagination. You shouldn't, inject realism into the stuff like this. But I'm thinking to myself, how was she able to get him out of the car? Or is this just we're going to say plot armor and we're just going to run with it?
I think you nailed it.
Okay, then we're just going to run with it. Well, he's still handcuffed. She gets him out of the car, and they start running into the woods. He gets shot, or he gets tagged. I don't know who shot. No, it was one of the FBI guys that tagged him.
Yeah.
They and he's not in great shape. They I think he meets up with McFinn, and him and McFinn talk about what's going on, trying to figure out what to do, but the FBI and the cops are still chasing after them. They go their separate ways. I believe that they arrested McFinn. He gets arrested, and Dresden makes it to a gas station. He calls your dad's favorite character, Dresden's girlfriend, right now at the current moment.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes and picks him up from the gas station. As they're leaving the gas station, they are being chased by the street wolves. Do we buy this?
Wait, hold on.
Not really. It would make more sense that the FBI or a lot of other people would have, even Marcone's people, would be more inclined to surveil somebody and, keep tabs and, pull the whole sort of, Boba Fett, figuring out what Han Solo did in Empire Strikes Back by landing on the Star Destroyer, knowing those tricks. The biker gang, I just wasn't buying that they had the wherewithal and the thought processes to second guess, the hero when the paid professionals weren't.
That's fair. I mean, they did say that they were following. They saw him leave the courthouse. They saw him leave the station and got picked up by his girlfriend. Then he disappeared, and they were following her around. There was a group that was following her around as well. I think they said that in the book.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, okay. Kai says, okay, possibly option one. Dresden has a tech curse, and most locks are electronic, so that failed. Okay. I can go along with that thought. Second option, back doors are locked, but the front door isn't, and hit the unlock button. See, I've never been in the front seat of a cop car. I've only been in the back, so I don't.
I've been in front and back, so yeah, it is a possibility. The fact that she just was able to approach the vehicle and not be spotted is where I had the problem. She's obviously a supernatural creature, so I'm guessing
maybe
that
she shapeshifted or something.
No, that she just was able to
make that's what I'm saying. Maybe she's a shapeshifter.
So she shapeshifted to look like a police officer.
Shapeshifted to look like go back to her natural form as a wolf, slinked around the cops and got to the doors. Go back into her the human form, open the door, let Dresden out. Is what I think Jack is saying.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
Once again, I would love to see this scene done on film. I think Jack, if you're ever in the opportunity to actually film at least this scene, I think me and your dad would love to see your approach to it. But that's just me. Not that I want you anywhere near a cop car. Don't get me wrong. I don't want you anywhere near a cop car. I don't want your dad yell at me. See what you did? No, I don't want that.
Yeah, my cousin is a police officer now, so.
Well,
he's in the corrections department. I don't know that that's full-fledged.
So is he a guard or a cop? Oh, he's in.
I know he's a guard. I don't know that he's actually done the academy, but and I don't know if you can do one without the other, but
You can. You could be a security guard, prison guard, and not be a cop. I got family members that work at a prison here in Illinois that are not cops, and I feel sorry for the city if they ever become cops. Anyways, moving on without defaming my family any more than I naturally do. So, okay. Okay. The gas station. He has the fight with the street wolves. He gets captured by the street wolves because you were talking about this earlier about his use of magic. How much magic he had stored in his magical batteries.
Mhm.
I like to think it might be spell points. I think he just blew his. I think he blew his load while he was on the magical steroid potion that he was on.
Mhm.
Because he flipped a Jeep. And he says in the book that he would not have been able to do that on one of his best days normally. I think he just went into the negatives if you're going to spell points.
Yeah. I can see that.
That works for me.
Yeah, I think that's the way I would probably do that. He'd probably go in call Susan. Her name is Susan. I'm reading my notes. I'm sorry.
All right.
So they got McFinn in the jail on a full moon. I've actually never seen a movie where they have a big bad Lugaroo in a prison cell on a full moon. I've seen them have a Lugaroo and the Wolfman with Anthony Hopkins' version of Wolfman that came out in early 2000s, where they had his son in a sane asylum and he wolfed out on them. So, I mean, I think that'd be kind of interesting to see. So, the wreckage and carnage that McFinn does in the police station is, I believe that's 100% viable.
Yeah, because maybe this is just my own personal experience, but the spell slot system works better for a game, especially a game like D&D, but it doesn't work very well for writing. For when you're writing specifically to write a story,
where you have to memorize the spell before the day, at the very beginning of the day, somehow figuring out what you're going to need is very, very complicated to try to justify, in a modern setting. Well, I'm going to need to detect magic today, a couple of magic missiles and a lightning bolt. That just doesn't make any modern day sense, unless you're going into a some sort of installation or military base, and what your plan is, or you're robbing a bank and you kind of have it all planned out ahead of time. It seems very, very
the way
gamey, to be able to plan that out without
I always thought the way I read
kind of fate.
Every time Dresden goes on, it's like, if I have a plan, he needs to, in later books, he works out plans of attacks, or at least he tries to do plans of attack, and kind of reminds me of the old A-Team TV series, where if you give Hannibal a little bit of time to work out a reasonable plan, they're damn near unstoppable. It's just the heat of the moment where everything is in pure chaos and you don't have a plan. I think that's where Dresden's big failures at. Because I don't
Yeah.
think he was planning on fighting the Street Wolves, at least not yet.
No.
Right.
Yeah. No. He wasn't.
All right, so going back to the jail cell, the prison. No, it was a police station. Finn breaks out, turns into a werewolf, breaks out of his cage, and starts just playing merry havoc on the police station, knowing that normal bullets will slow him down, but will not put him down. And it's not like he can go up there and karate chop a werewolf and hope come back with an arm or a torso or a head. I would like to think that if you put in that situation, Butcher was probably mostly on the money. He just pure havoc.
Absolutely, absolutely. Unfortunately, any and every single survivor of that incident would never see the outside world again once the FBI and other organizations were involved.
Right.
Their debriefing session will last decades. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. All right. So he gets out. Dresden's able to slow him down momentarily using, I guess, the werewolf, the Lugaru's blood, a Snoopy doll, and a little bit of magic. I guess, same concept as a voodoo doll, I imagine.
Yeah, that was part of the first book too.
Right. Yeah. All right. So, I'm sorry, we completely skipped over. The Street Wolves are able to capture Dresden. They take him back to their garage. Most of the Street Wolves were at a lake blowing off steam, but the head guy Parker, and a couple of his people were still there to keep an eye on Harry. McCone shows up, basically offering Harry one last shot to sign that contract to come work for me. Parker gets pissed because Parker, the only way for him to keep control of his pack is basically to kill Dresden in front of his pack. From a bad guy point of view, especially with a feral wolf or just feral point of view, I get that. That I don't have a problem with. Parker's, I need to gut this guy in front of my crew to keep my crew in order. I mean, you kind of see that in real life with gangs. If you disrespect somebody in a gang or the leaders of the gang, you need to be made an example of.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Then McCone and Hendricks, his 7-foot gorilla, not real gorilla, but big guy, get into it with Parker and his people there. Harry is saved by Tara and the Alphas, who have the ability to turn into not so much dire wolves, but decent-sized wolves, and were able to get him out by digging a hole. Okay. This is just plot. This is just building on, okay, the Alphas are good people. Tara is good people. We're eliminating possible threats, enemies, or suspects. That works because that's part of a detective story. You want to eliminate possible suspects. So Dresden and the Street Wolves, Dresden and the Alphas and Tara come up with a plan to stop McCone and hopefully, save McFinn from whatever bad guy plan that McCone has for him. Sure, why not? I'm not going to argue this. With the keep in mind that Dresden is still magically kind of done. He's still staying. He hasn't got his 8 hours of sleep. Prepare his magic like you do in normal D&D or whatever. And they make a plan. I like making plans.
Man.
Plans are good. I never always stick with them, but I do try. Mark says, any use of Wolfbane in this mythology? Sometimes Silver takes the beast down, but had to put the rest with Wolfbane. Wolfbane is also used against vampires in some stories. I don't think Wolfbane was really brought up.
Not even mentioned.
No, okay. I didn't remember it being brought up. All right. So they go to McCone's place, which was this huge sprawling out land that he has. And the way the story goes, the Terra and the other alphas get tagged with a tranquilizer dart and knocked unconscious.
Yep.
Unknowing to Dresden, Murphy's there somewhere on site, but Dresden doesn't know at this juncture of time.
Right.
Yeah.
Dresden gets knocked out. He's get thrown in a hole, and McCone's like, well, since you didn't join my side, I'm more or less just going to let the werewolf eat you. That's why I took out of it.
Yep.
But Murphy was in the hole too at that point.
All right, because the FBI also McCone was hanging down from a crane on the rope, tied up as bait for the werewolf.
Right, but they had also already captured Murphy and threw her in the hole with him.
Right, and you find out that the FBI are really the bad guys in the story, which is sad that they would make the FBI the bad guys, but I get why they're doing this, and they're using that magical equipment called hex spelt that lets them turn into wolves. So you find out that they're the big bad of the story, or the multiple bad. There's wordage there. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the time. I'm just kind of not speeding along, but moving through most of this. You guys are more than welcome to jump in with any comments you guys want to make. So he changes. He goes after certain people. For whatever reason, McCone decides to do the right thing and help Dresden. Is that self-interest, or is he just not a bad? He's a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy.
Well, here's the thing. He's still a human. That's how I looked at it. Marcone was still human, and he now realizes that he's surrounded by werewolves on all sides. Even in the higher echelons of the FBI, there's people with magic, and the only guy who hasn't, tried to kill him, and who he knows he can predict what Harry's going to do because Harry is such a out and out, white knight. He knows he can trust Harry. He knows he can't trust anybody else. Not to mention the fact that the werewolves strung him up too.
Yeah.
At that point, the only guy you can trust is the wizard, who may hate your guts, but he hasn't done anything even remotely, against you. He hasn't tried to kill him. He hasn't tried to interfere with his plans. He hasn't tried to get him arrested. Hasn't tried to break up his illegal businesses. So he knows he can trust Harry, and literally that is his only choice. Trust Harry or get eaten.
Always trust the wizard. Not always, but sometimes trust the wizard. Trust the good wizard. All right. Kai says the government is always a good cause of being the bad guy, or at least the antagonist force. It is easy to corrupt major institutions from the inside with small numbers of bad guys ensuing orders. Yeah, that's true. I'll give you that.
Yeah, our current situation, no matter what your situation in life is, could be, laid at the feet of one of, if not most of, our current governmental institutions at the moment. Don't want to go all conspiracy theorists on you guys, but if you've been outside and tried to buy anything lately, those guys can't be trusted for shit.
And looks at the amount of power the alphabet organizations have to draw power. Power draws to the corruption. Yeah, you know. So Murphy and Dresden kind of tee off with the werewolf. Okay, so Dresden is between here I am stuck in the middle with you, but you know, werewolf Lucaru on my left and Murphy on my right scenario. Well, in front of me, and then the werewolf's coming up behind him, and Murphy's got a pointed gun at him. And
I mean, I don't know anybody who read that particular part of the book didn't know, but none of us thought that there was someone behind Harry. There was no clue whatsoever to think that she wasn't literally going to shoot him because she wanted him arrested.
Right. I mean, it would be kind of
that was just.
Well, she was telling him to get down. Why would you say that?
Because that's what cops do. They say, get down or I shoot you. He didn't get down. She shot him. He had every reason to think everything that he thought while he was trying.
Didn't she say duck or something?
I don't know that she said duck ever.
Well, she told him to get down. I do remember that aspect. Get down. Get down.
He wrote it to, he didn't leave us any reason to think that there was someone behind Dresden. But he did give us every reason to think that Harry should not sit down, lay down, or stop spinning or swinging his pentacle in the air, getting ready to, silver bullet the big bad werewolf who was about to munch on Murphy. It was weird, and then her, kind of attitude, not being able to realize that he didn't know there was someone behind her, so he had every reason to think that she shot him because she wanted to arrest him, and he wouldn't, stop swinging the pentacle to try to save her life when she figured out after everything was done, there was a werewolf behind you and someone behind him. Yeah, it would have been funny if you were watching it from afar, being a fly on the wall watching it. I can't tell you how many times I saw things like that happen in Castle and various other TV shows, probably Moonlighting as well as Remington Steele. I'm sure that exact situation happened. They're pointing guns at each other because there's people behind each other. It's just kind of corny when it's all played out and done. And her attitude should have been like, wow, how many times did I see that on TV? Never thinking it would actually happen to me. That would have been a better response than, you're a dick, Harry. You should have trusted me. You're a bitch. You should have trusted me. You think I'm going to swing this magical thing at you? Seriously? She sees the magic spinning around in his hand, and she really thought he was gonna zap her. Right,
because that's right. Now that I'm remembering, because the werewolf was coming up from behind her, and he's got one of the bad FBI people behind him. It was very much a weird scenario. I think he wrote that part beautifully because you did not. I think it was done beautifully.
But I've seen it before.
You've seen it before. That's fair.
Multiple times on different TV shows. So it was just kind of like, we couldn't see it. At least in the TV shows, you can see it and kind of laugh along at the tension and all that other stuff that's going on. Because every time I've seen it, it's actually been a guy and a girl pointing a gun at each other because there's people behind each other. So there's that sexual tension, that trust, that mistrust, that whole sort of cliche thing going on, except us, the readers, didn't get to know 25% of the information.
Right. I was never much into cop shows, to be completely honest, but I have seen that scenario in Westerns and other, type shows. But yeah, I'll give you that.
You didn't watch Moonlighting?
That was before my time there, Hoss.
What about Castle?
I didn't watch Castle because I liked him in Firefly, and I didn't want to see him play. Because that in Castle, he actually wore his Firefly costume once in Castle. I'll have to watch it. I mean, I know he's now in another cop show called The Rookie, but I haven't seen it.
For that reason alone, it was worth watching. and it turned out it was a really good series up until a certain point, and I heard bad things, but I didn't continue watching it because they took it off. I think it was USA, and when I had USA to watch it on,
Gotcha.
or something like that. But I lost track of it, and it didn't matter because, I had started hearing bad things about it, and whatever. But at least 3 TV shows I'd seen it before, and maybe even other ones where it wasn't always a guy and a girl doing that. But I do like the way it ended, the book.
Right.
It was actually a really good ending. And, sometimes endings are the hardest part to write.
Stephen King still can't be able to, well, Stephen King still can't do it. That's not nice.
I don't like Stephen King, so you can say all the crap you want about him. Can't stand that guy.
All right.
His best work was Shawshank Redemption. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I like that one. The Mainline Castle, NCIS, Law and Order, good deal of other the main background noises while painting or writing. Okay. Okay, that's cool.
Mainline, though. Really? Mainline? That's pretty hardcore, dude. I don't even know how you would do that. You just stick the cable right in there? Not that I'd want to see it, but I need to see it to understand that.
So, the FBI goes down, the werewolf goes down, but there's still three FBI agents still around. Dresden's able to get one of the belts off of the guy. He turns into the wolf. He goes and deals with the other 3 FBI agents. I'm just doing a quick wrap up because I'm looking. We're at the 2-hour mark.
So before where the pointing guns at each other and when he's spinning them.
You jumped ahead.
Yeah, you jumped ahead and now we're back.
I'm sorry. He's spinning his necklace. He throws it. It shoots off like a comet, the way he describes it as a comet. Murphy shoots. Dresden falls to the ground thinking that he's shot. Murphy's like, "Are you okay?" Not knowing that, there was the FBI behind him. He's like, "I'm cold." She's like, "You're an idiot. You're on the ground. Of course you're cold." I think that was a lineage somewhere around that. I always love that in Hollywood movies.
Yeah, but you skipped over when Dresden put on one of the belts, which I thought was...
I was getting to that.
But that happened before.
Was it? Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Dresden puts on the book. He takes care of the other FBI agents.
Sort of.
And you find out that the belt is somehow has a very addictive quality to it, which, I can see that. Binging is the stream watching the Blacklist. I love Blacklist. And those shows.
Yeah, it's a good show. I actually met one of the actors from Blacklist a couple weeks back.
I would love to meet David Spade. No, is that his name? Red, the guy who plays Red. I'd love to have a conversation with that man.
Yeah, all good shows you mentioned there, Kai, and you really need to come visit us here on the show real soon, because you and the little guy will get along just famously.
Right.
We actually don't veer off too much.
So yeah, throws. You're right. I see it in my notes. I jumped. I'm sorry. So more or less, the FBI agents are put down in a roundabout way. Now all of them are killed. Some of them are still alive. The Loup-Garou, the Loup-Garou is killed, but unfortunately, McFinn was actually not the bad guy in this book. He was a victim of a curse that got put on him by a St. Patrick of Ireland, which I giggled when I read that part, but that's earlier in the book.
Like I said earlier, the book ended really, really well. It had that full werewolf at the end of the Wolfman, black and white, you really, really felt sorry for the poor guy. And, the curse is lifted. The guy is, no more. But, you can see that, his death is is a release, and not so much a punishment, but you feel sad, a single tear, etc. And the last line of the book, I should have wrote it down, but I forget what it was, but it was clever and well done, and that's how you need to end a good book, is with a good ending. That last line needs to, do whatever it is you're trying to do, and in this case, show that the hero has learned and has grown and has become a better character for having, made the journey.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I like this book. I think this might not be the stepping stone that a lot of Dresden fans think as the takeoff part of the Dresden Files, but it is a good book. Grave Peril is the next book that we'll do. It'll probably be another two-parter, because we had to break this book into two parts. We'll have to probably break most of these.
I don't know if I don't remember.
I think we can make it through Grave Peril in 2 weeks. Let's just say that. It should not be a problem at all. I've got easier access.
Not you reading it. Us just doing a review of it, I think will take 2 parts.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, I can't make any promises for next weekend to be done with it, but I can the following.
Well, either way, next week is covered, because next week we will be talking about world building. Me and Jack both have homework that was given technically by me, because I'm the idiot here, to start building our own worlds. So I'm looking forward to see what Jack's got going on next week. I even believe Shadow is going to play along with this assignment and show some examples of what he's got going on, as he's already doing it now. See, that's it. I think he has an unfair advantage on us, Jack. He's just been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
So I want to wrap up.
I can crap this out in my sleep.
I want to wrap the stream up because it's a little bit over 2 hours. I love talking to you guys. I talk to you guys all day, but we got to play by the rules that StreamYard gives me. So next week we will talk about world building. I recommend anybody who's doing world building to watch this video, because I'll most likely make a fool of myself. Jack will probably be a little bit more on key, and Shadow will be the Grandmaster who shows us both how to really do it. Now, with that being said,
I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how I do it.
How he does it.
There is no. I've heard a lot of advice from a lot of people over the last couple of weeks how they do it, and there is no right or wrong way to do it. I'm showing you an easy way to do it. Not because I'm lazy, but because over the course of 40 years of making worlds, this is how I do it, and I bypass a lot of heavy thinking and wasted steps and things like that. We're assuming that you are getting ready to make a first level campaign, starting a first level party of, let's just assume 4 to 6 players, and you're going to make a world for them to adventure in. And this works whether or not you run a sandbox or a railroad.
Okay. So if you're new to watching this video, please like and subscribe. Then after you've done this with me, please go check out Shadow and Son, because they have a multitude of videos for crafting and reviews of their own that they've done over the last 2 years.
Almost 2 years. August 6th will be 2 years.
August 2 years, and they're definitely worth watching. And please subscribe and like their videos, because they need some love too. I want to say thank you to the people in chat, and
absolutely.
I want to see what words of wisdom that Jack came up for this week.
Yeah, what he said.
What was that? Read more books?
Yeah.
I can't argue with
that. His birthday list, wish list, was almost
exclusively books.
Well, yeah, pretty much exclusively.
No,
books.
Exclusively books. My literal list.
I think everybody should be well read, but that's just my opinion. Shadow, are you going to give us the normal words of advice?
Absolutely. That's always, for me, the best advice I can think of. play the games you love with the people you love, and all will be right in the world.
My words of wisdom this week is go out, have a good 4th of July, which is tomorrow. Don't blow off anything you might need later in life, being fingers or other aspects. And don't do anything that Uncle Connell wouldn't do. With that being said, remember, roll your dice in the dark and fill out your character sheets with the Quran. Everybody have a good evening and thank you, and we'll see you next week.
God bless.